I'm Mick Garris, and this is Trailers from Hell. And on Trailers from Hell, I like to talk about trailers for movies that had a real impact on me as a kid. And in 1964, I was suckered in by the claims of scientific expertise from the movie Robinson Crusoe on Mars. And even though those claims seemed to be a bit, well, exaggerated, I loved the movie. Scientifically authentic. Okay, that's the thing that hooked me, even though it turned out to be bullshit. Robinson Crusoe on Mars was directed by Byron Haskin, who had done The War of the Worlds and From the Earth to the Moon previously for legendary sci-fi producer George Pal, so it had to be good. Haskin had a very interesting past. He was a cinematographer from the early 1920s into the mid-30s, and then that technical expertise led to him being a leading special effects guy throughout the 1940s. So as a director, that background served him well, as most of his work from then on required a lot of visual imagination. And he worked a lot in the years to come as a director in both television and features. Robinson Crusoe on Mars is a very big production, or at least it seems it, especially for its day. For a science fiction movie at that time, most of them were real programmers and real quickies. But it was very ambitious and most of it quite convincing for the early 1960s. The location stuff was shot mostly in Death Valley, but a lot of it was shot in the studio, obviously. Not a big budget movie, but with big budget aspirations, and it pretty well handles the themes of Daniel Defoe's 1719 original novel and brings in some contemporary racial issues that were roiling the country at the time. Adam West, TV's Batman, is along for the ride, but only for the first few minutes. It's really a one-man show for Paul Manteve much of the film. It's about isolation, living alone on an unwelcoming planet for a lot of its running time. Paul Manteve was born Paul Marianetti, and he was an interesting actor who took up the profession when he left the Navy after serving in the Korean War. He worked on a ton of TV shows well into the 90s, and even published a couple of novels, In Search of the Perfect Ravioli and Bruno of Hollywood. Okay, the science of Robinson Crusoe on Mars may not be of university caliber. I mean, Manteve right here runs out of oxygen, but fires continue to burn regardless, things like that. They used the same kind of cell on Fantastic Voyage around the same time, screening it for science teachers around the country to get them to encourage their students to go see the movie. Then Victor London joins the cast as the Mute Man Friday. He's actually an escaped slave, bound by a metal band around his neck by which he's tracked and controlled. The slaves are owned by anonymous and never-seen aliens. All you ever see of them are these ships, which seem to be recycled models from War of the Worlds. These ships come across in a very disturbing way, moving in ways that spaceships never moved before in a movie that I know of. They kind of jolt into place instantaneously from their previous positions. It was a startling effect then, and really throws you off guard when you first see it. The script by Ib Melchior and John Higgins is actually very smart and really human, and has a kind of meditative quality where Manteve is alone on this strange planet. Lots of other top-notch credits. The matte paintings were done by the brilliant Al Whitlock, the master of the field, a field that pretty much doesn't exist anymore. There's a great score by Van Cleve, which was orchestrated by Fred Steiner, a brilliant composer in his own right, who scored an Amazing Stories episode that I directed. Wally Westmore did makeup, Farcio Edouard did the process photography, and it really had a great group of creative professionals that made this into a bit of a classic movie for me. Often you get the feeling that science fiction movies are made by people who are just interested in making a buck, but there's an earnestness behind this film, a feeling that people were really working at the top of their game, a passion behind the movie that really comes across. And besides that, it's so damn scientifically accurate.